The town that learned to stay quiet. The town of Briar Hollow wasn't on most maps. If you blinked while driving down Route 6, you missed the turn. One faded green sign. White letters peeling like old scabs. Welcome to Briar Hollow population. 3,412 people said the number hadn't changed in 20 years. No one ever proved it. In the summer of 1987, the air in Briar Hollow felt wrong. Not hot, just heavy. Like the sky was holding its breath. 16-year-old Evan Mercer noticed it the night the radio started whispering. He was in his bedroom, lying on the carpet because the heat made the mattress unbearable. A box fan rattled uselessly by the window. Outside, cicadas screamed like they were competing for something. Evan twisted the dial of his portable radio, half listening, half dozing. Static, music, more static. Then, a voice. Not clear enough to understand. Not loud enough to be intentional. Evan froze. He sat up, heart ticking faster than it should. The radio speaker crackled again. "Can you hear?" His fingers tightened around the plastic casing. "This is stupid," he muttered to himself. He turned the dial. Nothing. Just static. Evan exhaled and laughed under his breath. Briar Hollow messed with your head if you let it. Always had. He shut the radio off. That's when the whisper continued. Not from the radio, from the room. Evan's smile faded. The sound was faint, like someone speaking from the other side of a wall or underwater. He stood slowly, every instinct screaming at him to turn the lights on, but his hand wouldn't move. "Hello?" he said, hating how small his voice sounded. The whisper stopped. Silence rushed in, thick and uncomfortable. Then the lights flickered. Once. Twice. Evan didn't wait for a third time. He lunged for the switch. Light flooded the room, harsh and buzzing. The fan sputtered, then resumed its useless rotation. The whisper didn't come back. Evan stood there, breathing hard, telling himself the same thing everyone in Briar Hollow told themselves when things didn't make sense. Old wiring, bad weather, overactive imagination. He believed it. Mostly. The next morning, Briar Hollow looked exactly the same as it always did. That was the problem. The town sat between endless woods, pine trees packed so tightly together they swallowed sound. A river cut through the east side, dark and slow-moving, locals calling it Blackwater Creek, even though no one could remember why. Main Street had one diner, one gas station, a hardware store, and a movie theater that only showed films 6 months late. People waved when they passed you. They always did, but they didn't ask questions. Not the important ones. Evan rode his bike toward Hollow Ridge High School, the chain rattling louder than usual. He hadn't slept much. Every time he closed his eyes, he expected to hear the whisper again. He didn't. That somehow felt worse. At the bike rack, Lena Brooks was waiting for him, arms crossed, foot tapping impatiently. "You look like hell," she said. "Good morning to you too," Evan replied, forcing a smile. Lena had lived in Briar Hollow her whole life and hated it with a passion that bordered on personal insult. She wore a denim jacket even in summer, patches sewn onto the sleeves, bands Evan had never heard of, cities she swore she'd move to someday. She studied his face more carefully. "Okay," she said. "No joke. What happened?" Evan hesitated. This was the first test. Say nothing and pretend everything was fine, Briar Hollow's specialty, or say something and risk sounding crazy. "I heard something last night," he said finally. Lena's eyebrow lifted. "Define something." "A voice. On my radio. Then, not on my radio." She didn't laugh. That scared him more than if she had. "Did it say anything?" she asked. I couldn't understand it. Lena glanced around the empty courtyard, then leaned closer. You know that's not normal, right? Evan snorted. Nothing here is normal. Before she could respond, a third voice cut in. Are you two whispering about the end of the world again? Marcus Hill jogged up, backpack slung over one shoulder, grin permanently glued to his face. Marcus was 17 and treated Briar Hollow like a personal joke. If the town was going to be weird, he figured he might as well laugh at it first. Evan's hearing voices, Lena said flatly. Marcus stopped smiling. Okay, he said. That's not funny. I'm not joking. Marcus studied Evan, then nodded once. Cool. That makes 3. Evan blinked. 3 what? 3 people who noticed something's off. Marcus lowered his voice. You feel it too, right? Like the air? Lena stiffened. Don't tell me you... The lights flickered at my place, Marcus said, and my TV started playing static even when it was unplugged. Evan's stomach dropped. None of them spoke for a moment. Then the school bell rang, loud and jarring, shattering the tension. Lena straightened. We're talking about this later. Marcus grinned, but it didn't reach his eyes. Oh, definitely. They walked inside, unaware they were already late to something much bigger than class. That afternoon, the first kid went missing. His name was Noah Reed, 17. Quiet. Worked weekends at the gas station. The kind of guy people described as nice because they couldn't think of anything else to say. Noah didn't come home after his shift. By sunset, his bike was found near Blackwater Creek. By midnight, the sheriff told everyone it was probably nothing. Kids run off, Sheriff Calder said, standing under the harsh lights of the town hall. He'll turn up. The adults nodded. They always did. Evan watched from the back of the room, Lena and Marcus beside him. Something twisted in his chest when he noticed what no one else seemed to. The radio on the sheriff's desk. It was on. Static hissed softly through the speaker. Then, just for a second, the whisper returned. Closer. Evan swallowed hard. Briar Hollow had learned to stay quiet, but something had finally started talking back. By morning, Briar Hollow had already decided what kind of day it was going to be. A normal one. The sun rose on schedule. The diner opened at 6. Mr. Kessler swept the sidewalk in front of the hardware store like he did every weekday. Cars passed through Main Street, drivers barely glancing at the missing person flyer taped crookedly to the telephone pole. Noah Reed, missing, last seen, Saturday, 9:40 p.m. Evan stared at the flyer on his way to school, the paper fluttering weakly in the breeze. Noah's photo looked wrong out here, exposed to sunlight and dust. He looked younger than Evan remembered. Softer, like the town had already started sanding him down into a memory. Inside Hollow Ridge High, the halls buzzed with a strange energy, quiet but alert. Whispers darted between lockers. Teachers spoke too loudly, overcompensating. Noah's desk was empty, 3rd row near the window. Evan couldn't stop looking at it. Stop, Lena muttered under her breath. Evan tore his eyes away. She was sitting beside him, chewing on the end of a pen like she wanted to snap it in half. They haven't even said his name, she continued. It's second period and no announcement. Nothing. Marcus leaned back in his chair, rocking dangerously on 2 legs. That's how it works here. If they don't talk about it, it's not real. That doesn't make it go away. Marcus shrugged. Tell that to the town. The teacher droned on about trigonometry, chalk squeaking against the board. Evan tried to focus, but his thoughts kept circling back to the radio. The whisper, the word closer. Closer to what? The bell rang, releasing them into the hallway. Students flooded out, voices overlapping. Someone laughed too loudly. Someone else was crying in the bathroom. Evan, Lena, and Marcus moved together without discussing it, like gravity pulled them in the same direction. They met at their usual spot behind the gym, where the chain-link fence sagged and weeds clawed through cracked concrete. From here you could see the tree line, the edge of the woods pressing in on the school like a warning. "This isn't just about Noah," Lena said immediately. Marcus raised an eyebrow. "Bold theory." "No," she snapped. "Listen, stuff's been weird for weeks. My mom swears she hears someone walking around at night. Our dog refuses to go near the basement." Evan nodded slowly. "The radio thing started happening more often. Not just last night. I just ignored it." Marcus let the chair legs drop, expression serious now. "I found something." They both looked at him. "Where?" Evan asked. "Old Service Road, the one near Blackwater Creek. You know, the one everyone pretends doesn't exist." Lena's jaw tightened. "The quarry access road?" Marcus nodded. "I was biking home late last week. Took a shortcut. I shouldn't have." "What did you see?" Evan asked. Marcus hesitated. "Not see," he said. "Hear." The air seemed to thicken between them. "It sounded like a radio," Marcus continued. "Static, then voices, but wrong, like they weren't meant to be heard." Evan felt a chill crawl up his spine. "You didn't tell anyone?" Lena asked. Marcus scoffed. "And say what? Hey, Sheriff, the woods are haunted again?" Lena paced. "We need to go there." "No," Evan said automatically. They both looked at him. "I mean, no, that's a terrible idea," he added quickly. "That's exactly how people disappear in horror movies." "This isn't a movie," Lena said. "This is Briar Hollow." "That's worse," Marcus smiled faintly. "Still going." They all knew it. Hat night, Evan dreamed of static. Not sound, space. A white void buzzing at the edges of his vision. He stood alone, calling out, his voice swallowed instantly. Then something answered. Not words. Coordinates. He woke up gasping, sheets twisted around his legs. His clock read 2:17 a.m. The radio on his desk clicked on by itself. Static poured out, low and steady. Evan sat up slowly, heart pounding so hard it hurt. "Don't," he whispered, though he wasn't sure to whom. The static shifted. "Evan!" His blood went cold. The voice knew his name. "Who are you?" he asked, barely breathing. The radio crackled, struggling. "Not... who..." The light flickered. "Where?" Evan squeezed his eyes shut. When he opened them, the radio was silent. Off, like nothing had happened. He didn't sleep again. The next day, they rode their bikes toward Blackwater Creek. They told their parents they were studying. Lies came easy in Briar Hollow. Adults expected them. The service road was barely visible, a strip of broken asphalt swallowed by weeds and shadows. Trees loomed on either side, branches arching overhead like ribs. "Feels like a bad idea," Evan muttered. Marcus grinned nervously. "All the best ones do." They walked their bikes the rest of the way. The woods swallowed sound quickly. No birds, no wind, just their footsteps and the distant rush of water. Then they heard it. Static. Faint, but unmistakable. It came from deeper in the trees. Lena stopped. "You hear that too, right?" Evan nodded. The sound pulsed, growing stronger with each step, like it was reacting to them. They reached a clearing. At the center stood something that didn't belong, a metal structure half buried in dirt and vines, rusted panels, bent antennas clawing at the sky. Evan stared. "What is that?" he whispered. Marcus swallowed. "That," he said, is not on any map. The static roared, and for the first time Evan understood something with terrifying clarity. Whatever had taken Noah, it hadn't left Briar Hollow. It had been waiting. They didn't touch the structure. At first, the thing sat in the clearing like a wound that never healed, metal ribs exposed, paint peeled down to gray scars. Vines crept up its sides, bold enough to claim it. The antennas were bent, twisted into shapes that didn't feel accidental. Evan felt like the air around it was thinner, like sound and thought had to work harder here. "Okay," Marcus said quietly. "Everyone agree this is the worst field trip ever?" Lena ignored him. She crouched near the base, brushing aside leaves and dirt. "This isn't a building. It's equipment." "For what?" Evan asked. She shrugged. "Signal transmission, maybe, or monitoring." Evan swallowed. "Monitoring what?" No one answered. The static surged again, louder now, vibrating in Evan's teeth. His head throbbed, like pressure building behind his eyes. Then it stopped. Dead silence. The woods seemed to lean in. "That's not normal," Marcus whispered. A shape moved near the tree line. Evan's breath caught. "Did you see that?" They all turned. Nothing. Just trees, shadows, the slow sway of branches. Lena stood. "We should leave." Marcus nodded a little too quickly. "Yeah, we've seen enough." They took 3 steps back, and the structure clicked. A sharp, metallic sound echoed through the clearing. Evan froze. The air buzzed. One of the panels slid open with a groan, rust flaking off as it revealed darkness inside. "That definitely wasn't like that before," Marcus said. The static returned, but it was different now. Patterned. Almost deliberate. Evan felt it pulling at him. "Guys," he said, voice strained. "I think it wants us closer." Lena grabbed his arm. "Evan, stop!" He hadn't realized he was walking. Inside the structure, something shifted. A faint blue glow flickered deep within, pulsing slowly, like a heartbeat. "Nope," Marcus said firmly. "We're done." He grabbed Evan's other arm and yanked him back. The moment Evan crossed the invisible line of the clearing's edge, the pressure in his head vanished. The panel slammed shut. The glow disappeared. Silence returned, thick and heavy. They stood there, breathing hard. "That thing just reacted to you," Lena said. Evan nodded numbly. "It called my name last night." Marcus stared at him. "Okay, that's officially bad." They didn't speak much on the ride back. The woods felt different now, aware. Evan kept glancing over his shoulder, expecting to see movement that didn't belong. They didn't notice the figure watching from behind the trees, not until it was gone. By evening, the town was restless. Another flyer appeared on Main Street. Noah Reed, still missing. Someone had added a handwritten note at the bottom. "Have you seen him?" Evan stood in front of it, heart pounding. "You think he's alive?" Marcus asked quietly. Lena hesitated. "I think something happened to him out there." Evan's radio crackled at home that night. He didn't turn it on. It turned itself on. Static flooded the room, louder than ever. Evan stared at it, fear and curiosity wrestling in his chest. "Evan," the voice said again. He stepped closer. "What do you want?" he demanded. The static wavered. "Help." Evan's throat tightened. "Help who?" A pause. Then, "Noah." Evan's breath hitched. "You have him?" he whispered. The lights flickered violently now, plunging the room into stuttering darkness. "Between..." The word echoed in Evan's skull, not his ears. "Between." "Between what?" Evan asked. The radio screamed. A flash of blue light burst from the speaker, throwing Evan backward. He hit the floor hard, vision blurring. When he looked up, the radio was smoking. Dead. But something else was different. The air in the room felt wrong again. Colder, like a door had been left open somewhere it shouldn't be. The next day at school, Evan told them everything. Lena's face went pale when he mentioned Noah. "So he's stuck," she said. Marcus rubbed his temples. "Between what, though? Places, times?" Evan shook his head. "I don't know. But that structure, whatever it is, it's connected." Lena leaned forward. "Then we need to understand it. Figure out why it's there." "And why now?" Marcus added. Evan swallowed. "And why me?" They fell silent. Across the cafeteria, a girl Evan barely recognized stared at them. She was new. Or maybe she'd always been there, and Evan just hadn't noticed. Dark hair, sharp eyes, a scar running along her left eyebrow. When Evan met her gaze, she didn't look away. She smiled. Not friendly. Like she knew something they didn't. Chapter 4. The girl who wasn't new. Evan noticed her again before lunch ended. She sat alone at the far table near the windows, untouched food tray in front of her, eyes drifting across the cafeteria like she was memorizing it. Not in the way a new student did, lost, cautious, but like someone checking details against a memory. "That girl keeps staring," Marcus muttered. Lena followed his gaze. "I thought she was new." "So did I," Evan said. "But I don't remember any announcements." As if summoned, the girl stood. She walked straight toward them. Up close, Evan noticed things that didn't fit. Her clothes looked worn but deliberate. Dark jeans, an old hoodie with a logo so faded it was unreadable. The scar above her eyebrow wasn't fresh. It looked years old. "You're Evan Mercer," she said. Not a question. Evan stiffened. "Yeah. Do I know you?" She tilted her head, studying him. "Not yet." Marcus blinked. "That's ominous." Lena crossed her arms. "Who are you?" The girl smiled faintly. "My name's Iris Caldwell." Lena frowned. "Caldwell?" Marcus snapped his fingers. "There used to be a Caldwell family. Like, way back." Iris's smile widened just a fraction. "Good memory." Evan felt that pressure again. The same invisible weight from the clearing. "You were at the service road," Iris continued, eyes never leaving Evan's. "Yesterday." Lena's posture tightened. "How do you know that?" "Because you weren't careful," Iris said calmly. "And because the woods don't like being ignored." Marcus laughed nervously. "Okay, cool. You're officially the creepiest person I've met this week." "I can help you," Iris said. Silence dropped over the table. Evan swallowed. "Help us with what?" "With Noah," she replied. "And with the structure." Lena leaned forward. "You know about that thing?" Iris nodded. "I know what it was supposed to do, and what went wrong." Marcus stared. "You're telling me you just casually know about a secret metal structure in the woods that talks through radios?" "Yes." "Okay," Marcus said. "Either you're lying, or this town is even more messed up than I thought." Iris glanced around the cafeteria. "Meet me after school. Old library. The one no one uses anymore." She turned to leave, then paused. "Oh," she added softly. "Evan, don't listen to the radio again." His heart skipped. "Why?" "Because it's not just calling you anymore." She walked away. The old library sat 3 blocks off Main Street, its windows boarded up and sign half fallen. A relic from before the school expanded, before Briar Hollow decided it didn't need history. Inside, dust hung thick in the air. Shelves sagged under the weight of forgotten books. Their spines cracked and yellowed. Iris waited near a long wooden table, a stack of folders spread out before her. "You break into abandoned buildings often?" Marcus asked. "Only the important ones," Iris replied. She opened one of the folders and slid out a photograph. It was black and white. Evan leaned closer. The image showed the woods, but younger somehow. Fewer trees, and in the center of the clearing, the structure, but intact. Clean. New. "That was taken in 1969, Iris said. Lena's eyes widened. "That thing's been there almost 20 years? "Yes," Iris said. "And before that, there was another one." Marcus frowned. "Another what?" "Another attempt." She pulled out a yellow document. The letterhead read, "Briar Hollow Municipal Research Initiative." Evan's stomach twisted. "Why, that doesn't sound real," he said. "It wasn't public," Iris replied. "The town partnered with a private contractor. Communications research, signal reach, interference testing." Lena scanned the page. "This says dimensional overlap." Marcus looked up sharply. "That's not a radio thing." "No," Iris said. "It's a space thing." Evan felt cold. "They weren't just sending signals," Iris continued. "They were listening, trying to find what was already here." "What was already here?" Evan asked. Iris hesitated. "The space between places," she said finally. "Between moments. Briar Hollow sits on something thin. Always has." Marcus rubbed his arms. "So Noah fell into this between?" "Yes," Iris said. "But not by accident." Evan's pulse spiked. "What do you mean?" She met his eyes. "The system needs an anchor. Someone who can hear it. Someone who can respond." Lena looked at Evan. "You." Iris nodded. "That's why it called you," she said. "And why it's getting louder." Outside, the wind picked up suddenly, rattling the boarded windows. Static crept into the room. Low. Distant. Evan's head throbbed. "It's waking up," Iris said quietly. "And this time, the town won't be able to ignore it." The wind didn't die down after they left the library. It followed them. Leaves scraped across pavement. Loose signs rattled on their chains. Evan felt like the air itself was unsettled, as if Briar Hollow had been nudged awake and didn't appreciate it. "Okay," Marcus said once they reached the street. "I'm officially done pretending this is normal." Lena shot him a look. "You started pretending?" Evan walked in silence, Iris's words looping in his head. An anchor. Someone who can hear it. Iris slowed near the corner. "We shouldn't walk together from here." Lena frowned. "Why?" "Because people are watching," Iris said. "They always are when things start shifting." Marcus glanced around. "I don't see anyone." "That's the point." They split up without arguing. Something about the way Iris said it made arguing feel dangerous. That night, Evan dreamed again. He stood in the clearing. The structure was whole now, metal gleaming, antennas straight, humming with energy. The air shimmered around it, folding in on itself. Someone stood inside. A boy, younger than Evan, maybe 13 or 14. His clothes were old-fashioned, too big, like hand-me-downs from another decade. "Help me," the boy said. Evan stepped forward. "Are you Noah?" The boy shook his head slowly. "No," he said. "I was first." The ground trembled. Evan jolted awake, heart hammering. His clock read 3:04 a.m. He sat up, scanning the room. No radio this time, no static, just a smell. Ozone, like something had burned the air itself. The next morning, Evan skipped school. He biked straight to Iris's house, a narrow place near the edge of town, half hidden by trees. The paint peeled in long strips, and the porch sagged like it might give up any day now. Iris answered the door immediately, like she'd been expecting him. "You dreamed," she said. Evan stared. How did you— I do too, Iris replied, stepping aside to let him in. Inside, the house felt crowded with history. Boxes stacked against walls, old furniture draped in sheets. The air smelled faintly of dust and rain. You said there was another attempt, Evan said, before the structure. Iris nodded. Come with me. She led him into a back room and pulled a tarp off a corkboard covered in newspaper clippings, photographs, handwritten notes. At the center was a single name, written in careful block letters. Thomas Hale Evans' throat tightened. Who is that? The first anchor, Iris said. She handed Evan a photo. A boy stood in front of Briar Hollow High, or what passed for it in the early 60s. He smiled awkwardly at the camera, eyes bright with something between curiosity and fear. He went missing in 1962, Iris continued. Officially, he ran away. Evan looked closer. But he didn't. No, Iris said softly. The structure wasn't finished yet. They were experimenting, listening without knowing how to stop. She pulled out a final clipping. The headline was small, almost apologetic. Local boy presumed lost in river. They blamed Blackwater Creek, Iris said. They always do. Evan remembered Noah's bike by the water. They sacrificed him, he whispered. Iris shook her head. They didn't understand what they were doing, but they didn't stop either. Why? Evan asked. Why keep going? Iris's expression hardened. Because the space between started answering back, and it told them things. Evan felt cold again. What kind of things? Warnings, Iris said. Predictions. Names. Evan swallowed. Like Noah's. Yes. A knock hit the front door. Sharp, sudden, both of them froze. Iris's eyes flicked toward the sound, then back to Evan. They know you're asking questions, she said quietly. The knock came again, louder. Briar Hollow Police, a man's voice called. We just want to talk. Evan's pulse roared in his ears. Iris leaned close. Whatever you do, she whispered, don't tell them about the dreams. The door handle began to turn. The door didn't open, not right away. The knock echoed through the house, vibrating in the walls like a warning. Evan could hear his own heartbeat, loud and uneven. Iris moved first. She crossed the room without a sound and placed her hand flat against the door, as if feeling for something on the other side. Sheriff Calder? She called calmly. Yes, ma'am, came the reply. Just checking in. Routine. Routine. Evan felt a flash of anger. Nothing about this felt routine. Iris opened the door just enough to keep the chain latched. Sheriff Calder stood on the porch, tall and broad, hat in hand. His face wore the practiced expression of concern. Soft eyes, relaxed mouth. The kind of look that made people trust him. Behind him stood Deputy Rourke, younger, eyes sharp, scanning the house like he was already inside it. Afternoon, Iris, Calder said. Didn't expect to see Evan here. Evan stiffened. We're neighbors, Iris replied evenly. He stopped by. Calder smiled. That so? His gaze slid past her, landing briefly on Evan. We've been asking around, Calder continued, trying to piece together Noah Reed's last movements. Evan, you were friends with him, weren't you? The question sat in the air, heavy. Evan remembered Iris's warning. Don't tell them about the dreams. He nodded. Yeah, sort of. Calder's eyes didn't leave his. Did Noah ever mention anything strange? Hearing things? Seeing things? Evan felt a pulse of pressure behind his eyes, like the structure waking up. No, he said. The word tasted wrong, but it held. Calder studied him for a long moment. Then he smiled again. Well, he said, stepping back. If you remember anything, you let us know. Deputy Rourke's radio crackled. Static. Just for a second. Calder's jaw tightened almost imperceptibly. We'll be in touch, he said, and turned away. The moment the patrol car pulled off, Iris shut the door and slid the deadbolt into place. They're involved, Evan said. Iris nodded. Or they're protecting someone who is. Later that night, Evan sat on his bed, lights off. He didn't know why he did it. Maybe part of him wanted proof, or maybe the space between was already tugging at him. He picked up the broken radio. The casing was cracked, the speaker blackened. It shouldn't have worked. He set it on his desk anyway. Don't, he whispered to himself. The radio turned on. Static flooded the room. Evan closed his eyes. I'm listening, he said. The sound shifted, forming something like rhythm. Evan. His chest tightened. Noah. A pause. Yes. Relief and fear crashed together. Where are you? Evan asked. Not here. Not there. Between, Evan thought. Are you alive? The static hissed, strained. Pieces. Evan swallowed hard. Who did this to you? The radio screamed suddenly, volume spiking so loud Evan clamped his hands over his ears. A vision slammed into his mind. The clearing, the structure opening, hands pushing, guiding Noah forward, and faces, familiar ones, adults. The image shattered. Evan gasped, falling back onto the bed. The radio went silent again. His nose was bleeding. The next day, Evan didn't go to school. He went to the diner. Lena and Marcus were already there, sitting in a booth, tension written into every line of their bodies. You look like hell, Marcus said. Evan wiped at his nose automatically. I talked to Noah. Lena froze. You what? Evan told them everything, the radio, the vision, the adults. Marcus leaned back slowly. You're saying the town did this? Some of them, Evan said. Or they knew it was happening. Lena's hands curled into fists. My dad works with the sheriff. The words hung between them. That doesn't mean... Evan started. I know, she said quickly. I know. But it means we have to be careful. Marcus exhaled. So what's the plan? Evan hesitated. I think, he said, the structure isn't just a doorway. Lena looked up. Then what is it? Evan felt the pressure again, deep and insistent. It's a lock, he said, and I think it's starting to fail. Outside, a low hum rolled through the town, too deep to hear, too strong to ignore. Somewhere in the woods, something shifted. Briar Hollow noticed them. Not all at once, not openly, but in the small, unmistakable ways a place lets you know you've stepped out of line. The diner went quiet when Evan stood up to leave. Conversations didn't stop. They thinned, stretched too tight. Someone dropped a fork. No one laughed. Okay, Marcus muttered as they walked outside. Tell me I'm imagining that. You're not, Lena said. They're watching. Evan felt it too. Eyes on his back. The air pressing closer than it should. By the time he got home, a car he didn't recognize was parked across the street. 2 men inside, windows down, radio on low, static. Evan didn't look at them. He went straight inside and locked the door. His mother was in the kitchen, hands deep in soapy water. You're home early, she said, without turning around. Yeah. She nodded like that was explanation enough. You should be careful, Evan, she added quietly. He froze. Careful about what? She finally looked at him. Her expression was tired, worried, but underneath that, something else. Fear. This town doesn't like trouble, she said. It never has. Mom, Evan asked slowly. Do you remember Thomas Hale? The color drained from her face. The plate slipped from her hands and shattered in the sink. I told you to be careful, she whispered. They met that night at Lena's garage. The place smelled like oil and dust, the single bulb overhead casting long, warped shadows. Lena paced while Marcus sat on an overturned crate, bouncing his knee. My dad hasn't said anything, Lena said. But he keeps making phone calls and then leaving the room. Marcus shook his head. That's not shady at all. Evan leaned against the workbench, fighting a dull ache behind his eyes. They're scared, he said. Not of us, of it. Of what's between, Marcus said. Evan nodded. The lock is failing. Whatever's on the other side is pushing harder. And the town's response, Lena said bitterly, is to pretend it's still 1962. Marcus looked up. So what do we do? Evan hesitated. This was the moment. He could feel it, like standing at the edge of something irreversible. We go back, he said. Lena stopped pacing. Back where? The structure, Evan replied. At night. Marcus let out a short laugh. Of course we do. It's getting louder, Evan continued. If we don't understand how it works, someone else is going to disappear. Or worse. Worse how? Lena asked. Evan closed his eyes. In my last vision, he said, I didn't just see Noah. They waited. I saw movement, Evan finished. From the other side, like something testing the edges. Silence settled heavy in the garage. Lena exhaled slowly. Then we don't go unprepared. They didn't notice the car parked down the street. Didn't notice the man inside speaking quietly into a radio. They're going back, he said. Tonight. Static answered him. Low, satisfied. The woods were different at night. No cicadas, no wind. Just the soft crunch of their footsteps and the distant, constant rush of Blackwater Creek. The clearing appeared suddenly, like the forest decided to reveal it. The structure hummed now, no longer dormant, no longer subtle. Blue light pulsed through cracks in the metal, bright enough to paint their faces in cold color. It's worse, Marcus whispered. Evan stepped forward. The pressure slammed into him immediately, sharp and dizzying. He dropped to one knee, gasping. Lena grabbed him. Evan! I'm okay, he lied. It's reacting. The panel slid open. Inside, the blue glow churned like fog lit from within. Shapes moved beneath it. Not solid, not fully real. A sound rose from the structure. Not static. Voices, overlapping, layered, familiar. Noah, Evan breathed. The voices shifted, and something else spoke. Deeper, slower, closer. The ground trembled. Somewhere behind them a branch snapped. Marcus turned. Flashlights cut through the trees. Sheriff, he whispered. The beams stopped at the edge of the clearing. Sheriff Calder stepped forward, face grim, no practiced smile this time. I told you kids to stay away, he said. The structure screamed. The blue light flared violently, swallowing the clearing in brilliance. And for one terrible second, Evan saw through the lock. The light didn't fade. It collapsed. Blue brilliance folded inward, like the world inhaling too sharply. Evan screamed, not out loud, but somewhere deeper, as his vision tore open. He saw through the structure, not into it, through it. The woods vanished. The night vanished. Briar Hollow vanished. There was no sky, no ground, only layers. Thin, overlapping sheets of reality sliding past one another like misaligned film reels. Some were dark, some burned with that same cold blue light. And between them, movement. Not creatures, not shapes. Intent. Awareness pressing back. Evan felt something notice him, not curious, recognizing. A pressure locked onto his chest, squeezing, testing, Angkor, a thought echoed. Not a word, not a sound. Evan fell backward. The clearing snapped back into place. He hit the ground hard, air exploding from his lungs. The blue light dimmed to a violent pulse. The structure shrieked, metal screaming like it was being torn apart. "Evan!" Lena shouted. He couldn't answer. Sheriff Calder staggered back, one hand raised to shield his eyes. "Shut it down!" he yelled. "Now!" Deputy Rourke fumbled with a device Evan hadn't seen before. Boxy, military-looking, cables trailing from it. "You can't!" Evan gasped, finally finding his voice. "It's not just a machine." Calder turned on him, face twisted with something close to panic. "You have no idea what you're dealing with, son." "Yes," Evan said hoarsely. "I do." The ground shook again. The voices surged. Noah's among them, clearer now. "Evan," Lena cried. "Your eyes—" He didn't need to look to know. Everything felt sharper, too sharp, like the world's edges had been outlined in pain. Evan pushed himself upright. "The lock is failing," he said, "because it was never meant to hold forever." Calder froze. "You were supposed to maintain it," Evan continued, words spilling out, not entirely his own. "Cycle anchors, control the bleed, but you got comfortable." Marcus stared at him. "Dude, you sound like them." Calder's voice dropped. "How do you know that?" Evan met his gaze. "Because it showed me," he said. "And now it's done waiting." The structure roared. The panel blew open completely. Blue fog poured out, spilling across the clearing like liquid light. The air warped around it, trees bending inward, shadows stretching wrong. A hand emerged. Not solid, not human, but trying. Rourke screamed and dropped the device. "No, no, no, no!" Calder backed away. "This wasn't supposed to happen." "You fed it, people," Evan said. "What did you think would happen?" The hand withdrew. The fog surged upward and vanished. The structure slammed shut with a thunderous crack. Silence crashed down. Everyone stood frozen, ears ringing. Then Evan collapsed. He woke up somewhere warm, soft light, the smell of antiseptic, a hospital room. Lena sat at his bedside, eyes red-rimmed. Marcus leaned against the wall, arms crossed too tightly. "You scared the hell out of us," Marcus said quietly. Evan tried to sit up. Pain flared behind his eyes, white-hot. Lena gently pushed him back. "Don't." "What happened?" Evan asked. Lena hesitated. "After you passed out, the sheriff told us to forget everything we saw," Marcus snorted. "Official story, faulty equipment, teens trespassing, end of discussion." Evan closed his eyes. "And unofficially?" he asked. Lena swallowed. "They're accelerating the timeline." Evan opened his eyes sharply. "How do you know that?" "Because my dad cried last night," she said. "And because Iris is gone." Evan's heart lurched. "Gone how?" "House empty," Marcus said. "Like no one's lived there for years." The room felt suddenly too small. "It took her," Evan whispered. "No," Lena said. "I think she went to it." Evan stared at the ceiling. He could still feel it. The layers, the pressure, the awareness. Something had changed. Something had latched on. "I'm not just an anchor anymore," he said quietly. Marcus frowned. "Then what are you?" Evan swallowed. "I'm a doorway," he said. Outside the hospital, Briar Hollow's radios crackled in unison. Static. Then, a new voice joined the noise. Briar Hollow woke up different. Most people couldn't say how. They just mentioned small things. Sleep that didn't feel like rest, radios turning on by themselves, clocks losing time in uneven chunks. Dogs barked at empty corners. Infants cried for no reason adults could name. The town didn't panic. It adjusted. Evan noticed it from his hospital bed, watching the morning news play silently on the TV mounted near the ceiling. The anchor smiled too much. His eyes kept darting off camera, like he was listening to someone else speak. The closed captions flickered. Temporary power fluctuations. No cause for concern. Static crawled across the bottom of the screen. Lena reached over and turned the TV off. "Don't," she said. "It does that thing." Evan swallowed. "What thing?" "Sometimes," Marcus said from the window. "The captions say stuff the anchor doesn't." Evan's stomach tightened. "How long was I out?" he asked. "Almost 2 days," Lena replied. "They ran tests, brain scans, blood work. And? They said everything looked normal." Marcus snorted. "Which is doctor code for we don't know what the hell is wrong with you." Evan shifted, pain blooming behind his eyes again. "I can still feel it." Lena leaned forward. "Feel what?" "The layers," Evan said. "They're closer now, like the space between thinned when the structure opened." Marcus frowned. "So, bad?" Evan didn't answer right away. "Not just bad," he said finally. "Different." They discharged him that afternoon. Sheriff Calder was waiting. He stood near the exit, hat tucked under his arm, posture rigid. No smile, no attempt at warmth. "You're lucky," Calder said as Evan approached. "You kids wandered into something bigger than you understand." Evan met his gaze. "I understand enough," he said. "You're running out of time." Calder's jaw tightened. "You don't threaten me, son." "That's not a threat," Evan replied quietly. "That's a warning." For a moment, something flickered in the sheriff's eyes. Fear. Then it was gone. "Go home," Calder said. "Stay quiet. That's how this town survives." Evan walked past him without another word. That night, Evan didn't dream. He listened. Lying in his darkened room, he became aware of sounds beneath sounds, frequencies hiding under normal noise. The hum of power lines carried whispers. The refrigerator's buzz held fragments of voices. Even his own breathing seemed slightly delayed, like it echoed somewhere else first. He sat up slowly. On his desk sat a notebook he didn't remember opening. The first page was blank. The second wasn't. "You opened the wrong side." Evan's hands shook. "Who are you?" he whispered. The lights dimmed. Not off. Just, less real. "We are what remains when places overlap." The words appeared one by one, ink bleeding into the paper without a pen. "You took Noah," Evan said, anger rising. "You hurt people. You gave them to us." Evan flinched. "We didn't—" They did, images pressed into his mind. Thomas Hale, Noah Reed, others, faces without names. "They were anchors," Evan said, "not sacrifices." "Anchors become doors when the lock fails." Evan's breath caught. "So what am I?" he asked again. The notebook trembled. "You are a signal." The word signal echoed, bouncing through Evan's skull. "What do you want?" he demanded. The room grew colder. "Balance." Evan laughed bitterly. "That's not an answer. It is the only one that matters." The notebook slammed shut. The lights snapped back to normal. Evan sat there shaking. The next day, Iris came back, not to town, to Evan. She stood at the edge of the woods behind his house, half hidden by trees, looking thinner somehow, like the world didn't fully agree with her presence anymore. Evan ran toward her. "You disappeared," he said. "They said your house—" "I know," Iris replied. "It doesn't exist anymore." Lena and Marcus caught up, both stopping short when they saw her. "You went in," Lena said. Iris nodded. "And I came back wrong." Evan studied her. Her eyes reflected light oddly now. like depth where there shouldn't be any. It's accelerating, Iris said. The town can't hold the overlap much longer. Marcus crossed his arms. So what's the end game? Iris looked at Evan. There are two outcomes, she said. One, Briar Hollow collapses inward, layers tearing, people lost between. And the other? Evan asked. Iris hesitated. You take control of the signal, she said, and become what the town uses instead of the structure. Silence fell. Lena's voice trembled. You're saying Evan replaces it? Yes, Iris said, voluntarily, permanently. Evan felt the weight of the word settle into his bones. Or, Iris added softly, someone else will be chosen. Far off, a radio crackled, a child laughed, and somewhere between places, something listened. They didn't answer Iris right away. The woods behind Evan's house felt crowded now, like unseen lines of sight intersected there. Leaves barely moved, yet Evan could sense a tension pressing in from angles that didn't make sense. Say it again, Marcus said finally. Slowly. Iris took a breath. The structure was a machine built to imitate something natural, a filter. Evan is closer to the original process. Lena's jaw tightened. You're talking about turning him into infrastructure. Evan almost laughed. That's one way to put it, Iris said. Another is, the town survives because someone listens. Evan stared at the ground. And if I don't? He asked. Iris didn't dodge it this time. Then the signal finds another anchor. Someone less stable, someone the town won't notice disappearing. Lena stepped closer to Evan. We don't decide this tonight. We don't have time, Iris said quietly. As if on cue, a low hum rippled through the trees. Evan flinched. Okay, Marcus said. Let's say, hypothetically, we go along with this. What does taking control actually mean? Iris hesitated. It means learning to shape the overlap, she said. Direct what comes through. Decide what stays between. And what happens to Evan? Lena asked. Iris met her eyes. He won't age the same way. He won't leave Briar Hollow, not fully. And eventually, he won't hear silence anymore. Evan felt that land. I become part of the noise, he said. Yes. They stood there, 4 silhouettes framed by trees and failing daylight. Evan closed his eyes. He could already feel the town differently now, not as streets and houses, but as connections. Radios, power lines, the river's slow pull, places where the world felt thin. I need proof, he said, that this isn't just another lie dressed up as responsibility. Iris nodded once. Then we show you. They went underground. Not literally, Briar Hollow didn't have tunnels. But beneath the surface of the town, under a shuttered building near the river, there was a door that wasn't supposed to be there. Iris pried it open with a rusted key. The smell hit them first. Cold metal and stagnant air. The stairs spiraled down into darkness. Walls lined with cables and ancient equipment. Marcus stared. How many secret places does this town have? Enough, Iris said. That's the problem. At the bottom, a room opened up. Wide, circular, its walls embedded with old radios, speakers, receivers. Hundreds of them, some cracked, some missing dials, all facing inward. At the center stood a chair, straps, wires. Evan's stomach dropped. This is where they put Thomas, Iris said, and the others. Lena's voice shook. They tied kids into this thing? They called it stabilization, Iris replied. They told themselves it was temporary. Evan stepped forward. The moment he did, every radio in the room came alive. Static surged, layered and loud. Then, voices, not screaming, not begging, talking, discussing weather, birthdays, arguments half-finished decades ago, fragments of lives. Evan gasped, dropping to one knee as the sound crashed through him. "These are the people who never came back," he whispered. Iris nodded. "They're not gone. They're distributed." Lena grabbed Evan's shoulder. "We're leaving." Evan didn't move. "They're holding the town together," he said. "Aren't they?" "Yes," Iris said. "For now." Evan stood slowly. "This is wrong," he said, "but letting it break would be worse." Marcus swallowed hard. "So what, you volunteer?" Evan turned to him. "No," he said. "We changed the system." Iris's eyes widened. "You don't know if that's possible." Evan felt the signal pulse through him, strong and steady. "I do now," he said, "because it's already listening to me." The radios quieted. All at once, silence fell, true silence. And in that silence, something waited for Evan to decide what shape the future would take. The silence didn't last. It waited. Evan felt it coiled just beneath perception, like a held breath stretched too long. The radios around the room sat perfectly still, dials unmoving, speakers dark. No static, no hum. Too clean. "This isn't right," Marcus muttered. "I don't trust quiet anymore." Evan stepped toward the chair. Lena's hand snapped out, gripping his sleeve. "You don't have to do this now." "I do," Evan said gently. "If I don't learn how it responds, someone else will force it." Iris watched him with an expression Evan couldn't fully read. Pride and guilt tangled together. "You don't sit," she said quickly. "Not yet. You don't let it decide the posture." Evan nodded. He closed his eyes. The room peeled away. Not visually, structurally. He became aware of pathways instead of walls, currents instead of air. The radios weren't objects anymore. They were nodes, each tuned to a slightly different fracture in reality. He reached, not with his hands, but with intention. The signal answered immediately, not violently, curiously. A low vibration passed through Evan's chest, like a question mark made of sound. "I hear you," Evan said aloud. "But you don't get to speak through them anymore." The radios crackled. One voice emerged. Old, thin. "Permission required." Evan swallowed. "You don't need permission," he said. "You need direction." The vibration shifted. Images slid into his mind. Overlays of Briar Hollow across decades. The diner changing hands. The school expanding. The woods retreating, then pressing back again. People aged. The town didn't. "You've been holding it still," Evan whispered. "That's why it's breaking." The signal pulsed, uneven. Stillness was safety. "No," Evan replied. Stillness was fear. The chair rattled. Cables trembled along the walls. Lena backed away. "Evan, I'm okay," he said, though sweat poured down his spine. "It's listening." He pushed further. He felt resistance now, not malicious but structural. The overlap didn't understand change. It only understood containment. "So we teach you," Evan said. "A new rule." The room shuddered. Outside, far above them, a car alarm went off. Then another. Then glass shattered. Marcus's voice echoed faintly. Pretty sure that's not us imagining things." Evan ignored it. "People move on," he said, voice straining. "Towns change. You can't freeze them without tearing them apart." The vibration spiked sharply. Pain lanced through Evan's skull. He cried out, dropping to one knee. Lena rushed to him. "That's enough." "No," Evan gasped. "Almost there." The signal surged, chaotic now, overlapping fragments crashing into one another. "Loss follows change." "Yes," Evan said through clenched teeth. "But loss follows stillness too." Something gave. Not a snap, a release. The radios fell silent again, but this time it felt different. Not held, not suppressed, settled. Evan slumped forward, barely staying conscious. They emerged from the underground room to a town that felt wrong. Streetlights flickered out of sync. Windows reflected angles they shouldn't. The river sounded closer, louder. A man stood in the middle of Main Street, staring at his hands. "I was supposed to leave," he kept saying. "I bought a ticket. I remember buying a ticket." Lena felt cold creep up her arms. "Evan, what did you do?" Evan's voice was weak. "I loosened it." Iris's face had gone pale. "You changed the tension." Sirens wailed in the distance. Radios crackled from open windows. But now, between bursts of static, there were gaps. Moments of real quiet. Marcus swallowed. "Is that good or bad?" Evan looked up at the sky. Clouds drifted, not looping, not stalling, moving. "It's necessary," he said, "but it's going to hurt." Across town, the old movie theater's marquee flickered, letters rearranging themselves. "Now leaving no title" followed. Somewhere between layers, something shifted position, no longer contained, but no longer trapped either. And for the first time since Briar Hollow learned to stay quiet, the town began to remember what it had been avoiding. Briar Hollow didn't wake up all at once. It fractured into awareness in pieces. At 6:42 a.m., every clock in town froze for exactly 9 seconds. At 6:43, they resumed, each one slightly off from the others. By 7:10, the school buses arrived twice. By 7:15, one never arrived at all. People noticed. They laughed nervously. They blamed power surges, faulty wiring, stress. They always reached for explanations that didn't ask too much of them. But by mid-morning, denial stopped working. Evan sat on the front steps of his house, wrapped in a blanket he didn't remember putting on. His hands trembled, not violently, but constantly, like something inside him hadn't settled back into place. Lena knelt in front of him, eyes scanning his face. "You're burning up." "I'm fine," Evan said automatically. "You said that last time," Marcus added, pacing the sidewalk. "And then you almost turned into a human radio tower." Evan smiled weakly. "Progress?" Iris stood a few steps back, watching the street like it might rearrange itself if she looked away too long. "It's starting," she said. "As in?" Lena asked. Iris pointed. Across the street, Mrs. Calderon's porch light flickered, then flickered again. Then the porch itself warped, boards stretching subtly, like rubber pulled too far. Mrs. Calderon screamed. The porch snapped back into place. She stood frozen, staring at nothing. "I was younger," she whispered. "Just for a second." Marcus's voice dropped. "That's not okay." "No," Iris agreed. "That's temporal recoil." Evan squeezed his eyes shut. "I told it change would hurt," he said. "I didn't tell it how much." A pressure built behind his forehead, sharp and demanding. The signal wasn't asking now. It was reacting. By noon, Main Street was chaos wrapped in politeness. The diner served the same customers 3 times. Same orders, same conversations, slight variations. A man argued with his own reflection in a store window. 2 teenagers claimed they'd been walking home for hours without reaching their street. The sheriff set up barricades. Radio announcements looped every 10 minutes. "Remain calm. This is a temporary disturbance." Static bled through every word. Evan felt each broadcast like a hook in his ribs. "It's pulling on you," Lena said. He nodded. "It doesn't like losing control." Iris knelt beside him. "You have to respond. Set limits." "I don't know how," Evan admitted. "I don't speak its language well enough yet." "You do," Iris said quietly. You just don't trust it. Evan looked at her. Do you? Iris hesitated. No, she said. But I trust you more than I trust it. That settled something in him. Evan stood. The world tilted immediately. Sidewalk bending, colors sharpening, sound lagging half a second behind motion. Marcus caught him. Careful. Stay here, Evan said. All of you. Lena shook her head. Not happening. I'm serious, Evan said. If it pushes back hard enough, then we push back with you, she said, voice steady. Evan exhaled. Okay, he said. But don't let me disappear. They went to the river. Blackwater Creek churned faster than it should have, surface rippling in patterns that didn't match the current. Reflections fractured, sky above, woods from another angle, sometimes faces that didn't belong to anyone present. Evan stepped to the water's edge. The signal roared. Pain exploded behind his eyes. He dropped to his knees, gasping as layers slammed together. You unbalance. The words weren't spoken. They compressed. I warned you, Evan rasped. Stillness was killing us. You opened paths without permission. I didn't open them, Evan said. They were already there. He pressed his hands into the dirt, grounding himself in something solid. Listen to me, he said. You don't get to correct by snapping people backward. That's not balance, that's panic. The creek surged. A shape rose beneath the surface, almost human, but stretched wrong, reflections folding into it. Lena stepped back, heart hammering. Evan! I've got it, he said, though his voice shook. He reached again, not deeper this time, but broader. He let the town in, the real town. Memories poured through him. Graduations, fights, laughter, people leaving, people dying, people changing. Messy, uneven, alive. This is what you're holding, Evan said. Not a structure, not a signal, lives. The pressure wavered. The shape in the water hesitated. Change creates loss. Yes, Evan said softly, but it also creates room. The signal recoiled, not defeated but uncertain. The river calmed. The reflections aligned. Evan collapsed forward, unconscious, before he hit the ground. When he woke, it was raining. A soft, normal rain. Lena cried openly, gripping his jacket. Marcus sat nearby, silent, eyes red. Iris watched the river like it might speak again. What happened? Evan whispered. Iris answered. You set a boundary. Marcus let out a shaky laugh. Town's still weird, but less screaming. Evan stared at the gray sky. Then it's not done, he said. It's negotiating. Thunder rolled, distant, real, for now. The rain stopped too suddenly. Not gradually, not naturally. One moment it fell steady and real. The next it simply wasn't there anymore. As if someone had turned the sound off. Evan noticed it before anyone else. He sat up slowly, muscles screaming in protest. Every joint felt overused, like he'd run miles he couldn't remember. Don't move, Lena said immediately. Please. I'm okay, Evan replied, though the words felt optimistic at best. The town around them looked aligned, not fixed, just less bent. Streetlights hummed evenly. The river flowed like water instead of memory. Marcus exhaled. I don't like this part. Lena glanced at him. Which part? The calm, he said. It's never free. Iris was staring across the street, at someone standing under the dead streetlight. A boy, about 17, soaking wet despite the rain having stopped. His clothes clung to him like he'd just crawled out of the river. Evan's heart stuttered. No, he whispered. The boy looked up. It was Noah Reed, alive. Lena froze. That's not... I know, Evan said, already standing. I know. Noah smiled. It was wrong. Not because it was cruel or twisted, but because it was too exact, like a memory replayed without understanding why the expression existed. "Hey," Noah said. His voice sounded fine, normal. "Everyone's freaking out. What did I miss?" Marcus took a step back. "Nope, absolutely not." Evan approached slowly. "Noah," he said carefully, "do you know where you've been?" Noah frowned. "I told the sheriff already. I fell in the creek, hit my head, must have wandered." Evan felt the signal tighten. "What do you remember?" Evan asked. Noah shrugged. "Stuff, school, work, you guys." He hesitated, then added, "Dreams, but everyone dreams." Lena whispered, "Evan." Evan saw it now, the gaps, the way Noah's shadow didn't quite match his movements, the way his eyes reflected light a fraction too late. "You didn't come back," Evan said softly. "You were sent." Noah's smile faltered, just for a second. Then it returned, stiffer. "I came back because you wanted balance," Noah said. The words weren't his. The air vibrated. Iris stepped forward. "This is its counter." Evan nodded. "A demonstration." Noah tilted his head, studying Evan. "You opened paths. You invited return." "I invited healing," Evan said. "This isn't that." Noah's expression finally cracked. His mouth opened, and a layered voice spoke through him. "Loss unacceptable." The streetlights shattered. Glass rained down around them. Lena screamed. Evan grabbed Noah's wrist. The contact was ice cold. "You don't get to wear him," Evan said, fury cutting through the pain. "You don't get to pretend." The pressure slammed into Evan's chest, knocking him backward. Noah staggered, then folded, collapsing to his knees. The layered voice fractured into static. "Return requires form." "No," Evan growled. "Return requires consent." Silence snapped tight. Noah fell forward, unconscious. This time, breathing. Real breathing. The ambulance lights painted the street red and blue. Sheriff Calder stood back, face unreadable, watching medics load Noah inside. "Is he going to be okay?" Lena whispered. Evan closed his eyes, listening. "Yes," he said, "but he won't remember everything." "What about that?" Marcus asked. "The thing that used him?" "It learned something," Iris said grimly. "That brute force won't work anymore." Evan nodded slowly. "So it's trying to manipulate outcomes instead." "And people," Lena added. Evan looked at his hands. They were shaking harder now. "It pushed through him," Evan said. "That means I'm not the only interface anymore." Marcus frowned. "That's bad, right?" "Yes," Evan replied. "That means the town itself is becoming usable." Above them, a radio crackled to life in a nearby house. Not static. Music. An old song, slightly off-tempo. The singer's voice doubled, like two tracks misaligned. Iris whispered, "It's learning to blend." Evan straightened, jaw set. "Then I have to learn faster," he said, "before it decides who comes back next." Somewhere between layers, the signal adjusted its approach. And Briar Hollow learned the most dangerous lesson yet. Not everything that returns wants to be saved. Evan didn't go home after Noah was taken away. He couldn't. Every radio he passed whispered, not in words, but in pressure. Each step through Briar Hollow felt like walking across a spiderweb that trembled at the slightest movement. They ended up at the old football field. The lights were off. The bleachers loomed like empty ribs against the night sky. Grass brushed Evan's ankles, cool and damp. "This place used to be loud," Marcus said quietly. "Friday nights, remember?" Lena nodded. "Feels like a memory pretending to be real." Evan sat on the lowest bleacher, head in his hands. "I can't stop it," he said. Lena sat beside him immediately. That's not what you said before. I know, Evan replied. I was wrong. Iris stayed standing, arms crossed, eyes scanning the dark edges of the field. The signal adapts, she said. Always has. That's why the town needed anchors, not controllers. Evan looked up. Then what am I now? Iris hesitated. A limiter. The word landed heavy. You don't command it, she continued. You restrict how much damage it can do, and every time you do... She didn't finish. Evan felt the answer anyway. His chest tightened, sharp and sudden. He gasped, clutching at his shirt. Lena panicked. Evan! I'm okay. He lied again. But this time, the lie didn't hold. Something burned under his skin, not pain exactly, but erosion, like sand grinding stone. Iris crouched in front of him. What do you feel? Evan swallowed. Like pieces of me don't come back when I push it away. Marcus's voice cracked. That's not sustainable. No, Iris agreed. It never was. Silence stretched. Then Lena said the thing none of them wanted to say. So what's the end state? Evan stared out at the empty field. I think, he said slowly, there isn't one. Just thresholds. Iris nodded. That's how it works. You cross them one at a time until there are no human ones left. Lena grabbed his hand. Then we don't let you cross them alone. Evan squeezed back, weak but present. That helps more than you think. The next morning, the town posted new flyers. Not missing persons. Community check-in attendance required. Marcus tore one down from a pole. That's not ominous at all. Sheriff Calder stood at the center of the square, flanked by radios mounted on portable stands. Too many. All tuned to the same frequency. Evan felt them immediately. Hooks. Calder spoke calmly. We've had confusion, disruption, but Briar Hollow takes care of its own. Static laced his words. We're going to listen together. Calder continued. Clear the air. Evan staggered. Lena caught him. They're using you. No, Evan said through clenched teeth. They're using the idea of me. The radios flared to life. Voices bled through, not screaming, not pleading, persuading, familiar tones, parents, friends, teachers. Stay, remember, don't change. The signal wasn't forcing. It was convincing. Evan pushed back instinctively and screamed. Pain ripped through him, white hot and absolute. He collapsed, vision fracturing. Iris shouted, Stop! You're tearing him! Evan gasped, barely conscious. I can't block all of it, he choked out. I need to choose. Lena knelt beside him. Choose what? Evan looked at the radios. At some point, he whispered, I have to let the town hear the truth, or it'll keep asking the signal instead. Marcus went still. You mean, tell everyone? Evan nodded faintly. And lose control of the narrative. The radios crackled, uncertain. For the first time, the signal hesitated not because of resistance, but because of exposure. Iris stared at Evan, awe and fear mixing in her eyes. You're not just limiting it, she said. You're threatening its relevance. Evan closed his eyes. Good, he said. Then maybe it'll finally listen. Above them, one radio clicked off, then another. Not all, but enough. Briar Hollow stood on the edge of something new, a choice made in daylight, and Evan felt another threshold crack beneath his feet. The meeting was scheduled for noon. That alone was wrong. Briar Hollow never gathered in daylight unless it was for something rehearsed. Parades, ceremonies, things with scripts and applause. This had neither. People filled the square slowly, not rushing, not resisting, curious. Evan stood on the courthouse steps, knees locked to keep from shaking. The sun felt too bright, like it didn't belong to the same reality he'd been touching for days. He could feel the signal everywhere, not pressing, waiting. Lena stood at his side, jaw set. Marcus hovered a step behind, hands clenched in his jacket pockets. Iris stayed farther back, near the radios the sheriff hadn't managed to remove. "You don't have to say everything," Lena whispered. "Just enough." Evan nodded. But he already knew. Partial truths would fail. Sheriff Calder cleared his throat into a megaphone that crackled even before he spoke. "We've had unusual events," he said carefully. "But panic won't help anyone. We're here to listen. Together." A murmur rippled through the crowd. Radios placed around the square hummed softly. Evan felt the pull, subtle, seductive. The signal was ready to frame this, to turn shared fear into shared stillness. He stepped forward before it could. "My name is Evan Hale," he said. His voice carried without amplification. That startled people. "I grew up here, just like most of you." He swallowed. "And this town has been lying to itself for a long time." The hum deepened. Evan pushed through it. "People didn't just leave Briar Hollow," he continued. "Some of them never got the chance, and some of them are still here. Not alive, not gone." Gasps, protests, nervous laughter. Sheriff Calder raised a hand. "This isn't appropriate." "It is," Evan snapped. The radios flared. And then, the signal made its move. A voice rolled across the square. Warm, familiar, perfectly tuned. "We protected you." The words echoed from every speaker. People froze. "We held back loss." "We kept the town whole." Evan staggered. Images flooded the air. Not hallucinations, but shared impressions. A child not dying in an accident. A family not breaking apart. A business never failing. The crowd leaned in. Lena whispered, horrified, "It's showing them what they didn't lose." Evan realized the truth with sick clarity. "No," he said aloud. "It's showing them what they gave up." The voice continued, gentle now. "Stay, and you will not suffer leave, and you will be alone." A woman in the crowd sobbed. "I just wanted my son to be safe." A man nodded. "Nothing ever changes here. That's why it works." The signal wasn't threatening. It was offering a contract. Evan felt something tear loose inside him. Not pain, not sound. Memory. He blinked. For a moment, he couldn't remember his mother's face. Lena noticed instantly. "Evan?" He steadied himself against the railing. "That's the price," Iris said softly behind them. "It takes payment in pieces." Evan forced himself upright. "You're not protecting them," he shouted. "You're replacing living with coping." The voice shifted. "You are losing coherence." Evan smiled grimly. "Yeah, I am." He stepped fully into the signal, not resisting, accepting. The square went silent. People gasped as the images vanished. Evan spoke again, voice hoarse, uneven. "You can stay," he said to the crowd. "But don't pretend it's free. This town takes from you slowly, quietly, until you don't know what you traded." The signal recoiled, not in rage, in calculation. "Alternative. Departure with guarantee," Evan stiffened. "What kind of guarantee?" he asked. The voice softened, almost kind. "We will let them go without pulling you apart." Lena's blood ran cold. "Evan, don't," Iris inhaled sharply. "It's offering terms." Evan felt the truth of it. The signal was adapting again. Not to him, to them. He closed his eyes. Another memory slipped. He couldn't remember the sound of his own laughter. Evan opened his eyes, resolve hardening. "You don't get to negotiate with my erosion," he said. "That's not consent. That's extortion." The radios screamed. Then, one by one, they shut off. People staggered, disoriented, like waking from a shared dream. The signal withdrew, not defeated, preparing. Evan collapsed to his knees. Lena caught him as he fell. "What did you lose?" she whispered, tears streaming. Evan searched himself. Something was gone, something permanent. "I don't remember," he said honestly. Above them, clouds moved freely across the sky. And for the first time, Briar Hollow felt afraid not of change, but of what it had almost chosen. Evan woke up somewhere unfamiliar. Not a room, a threshold. Light existed without a source. Distance existed without space. It felt like standing in a hallway that only appeared when someone decided to leave. He knew, without being told, that this was the signal's answer. Not punishment, not mercy. An offer refined to its sharpest edge. "You are bleeding structure," the layered presence said. "Not aloud, but everywhere. This will not stop." Evan looked down at himself. He was thinner here, not physically, definitionally. The edges of his hands blurred if he stared too long. "You're offering an exit," Evan said. "For you. For them." Images unfolded around him. Briar Hollow emptying peacefully. Families packing cars without hesitation. No missing people, no echoes, no returns. The town would become normal because it would no longer be held. "And me?" Evan asked. The answer came without hesitation. "You will stay between as translation as filter." Evan laughed softly. "So I disappear quietly, and the town gets to forget the cost." "You become function." "No," Evan said. "I become convenient." The pressure shifted, subtle irritation. "You are failing as Anchor Evan felt it. The tremor in his coherence. The way memories slid instead of settling. He could no longer remember what he wanted to be when he grew up. He wondered briefly if that mattered. Then Lena's voice cut through everything. "Evan!" The threshold wavered. He snapped back into his body hard enough to scream. Grass, dirt, the football field again. Lena knelt over him, shaking. Marcus hovered nearby, face pale. Iris stood a few steps back, eyes wide, not surprised. "You were gone for 30 seconds, Lena said. "You stopped breathing." Evan sucked in air like it might vanish again. "It showed me the door," he rasped. Iris nodded. "I was afraid of that." Marcus frowned. "Door to where?" "Out," Evan said. "For everyone else." Silence settled, heavy and cold. Lena's voice was small. "And for you?" Evan didn't answer immediately. He looked at the town beyond the field. Houses, streets, people moving uncertainly, arguing in clusters. Flyers torn down, radios smashed or hidden or clutched like lifelines. Briar Hollow was splitting. Some wanted the guarantee. Others wanted the truth, even if it hurt. "It wants to replace me," Evan said finally. "With a permanent solution." Marcus swallowed. "You mean, trap you in it?" "Yes." Iris stepped closer. "If you refuse, it will escalate. It's running out of subtlety." Lena grabbed Evan's jacket. "Then we don't let it take you." Evan met her eyes. "That might not be a choice," he said gently. "It might be a trade." "No," Lena said fiercely. "You don't get to decide that alone." Evan felt the signal stir at the edges of his perception, not forcing, waiting, because it knew something Evan hadn't said yet. "I can't keep everyone safe," Evan whispered, "but I can keep it from choosing for them." Iris understood immediately. "You're thinking about breaking the exit," she said. Evan nodded. Marcus stared. "Is that even possible?" "It would mean collapsing the boundary entirely," Iris said. "No more between, no filter." Lena's breath caught. "What happens then?" Iris didn't look away from Evan. The town would have to live with loss, fully, finally. And Evan? Marcus asked. Evan felt the answer settle into him like gravity. I won't be able to hold shape anymore, he said. Not like this. The signal surged, not angry. Afraid, for the first time, Evan felt it clearly. You need me, Evan said aloud. More than I need you. The presence tightened, retreating slightly. You will cease. Evan nodded. Yeah. Lena shook her head, tears spilling. There has to be another way. Evan pulled her into a hug, holding on like memory itself depended on it. I need you to remember me, he whispered. Even if I can't. The wind picked up across the field. Radios across town flared to life simultaneously. Not static, a tone, low, sustained, a door beginning to open. The tone didn't fade. It spread. Every radio in Briar Hollow, hidden in drawers, mounted on walls, rusting in garages, vibrated with the same low frequency, not loud, not invasive, persistent. People stopped in the streets. Hands went to ears. Some dropped to their knees, not in pain, but in recognition. The signal wasn't whispering anymore. It was calling. Evan stood at the center of the football field, legs unsteady, vision doubling at the edges. The air shimmered faintly around him, like heat rising off pavement. It's opening the exit everywhere, Iris said, voice tight. Decentralized. Marcus scanned the horizon. So we can't just shut down one place. No, Evan said. That was never the plan. Lena stepped in front of him. Then what is? Evan took a breath and lost part of it halfway through. The world hiccuped like a skipped frame. I break the idea of the exit, he said. Not the doors, the need for them. Iris stared. That would mean, I know, Evan cut in gently. It has to feel what we feel. All of it. The tone deepened, resonating through Evan's bones. Function requires continuity. I'm not your continuity, Evan replied. I'm your exception. The signal pushed back. The field distorted, bleachers stretching, goalposts bending inward like parentheses closing. Lena grabbed Evan's arm. You're fading. He nodded. I know. He reached out, not toward the signal, but toward the town. Not the infrastructure, the people. He opened himself completely. Pain ripped through him as every unprocessed loss Briar Hollow had ever buried slammed into his awareness. Funerals never held, goodbyes avoided, letters never sent, futures imagined and quietly abandoned. He screamed and kept going. This is what you erased, Evan gasped. This is what you stabilized away. The tone fractured. Radios shrieked. Unacceptable input. Then stop filtering it, Evan said. Stop pretending this is order. The signal wavered. For the first time, it didn't answer immediately. People across town collapsed. Not unconscious, but overwhelmed. Crying, remembering. A man sobbed over a brother he'd never mourned. A woman clutched an empty stroller, memories flooding back like broken glass. Lena fell to her knees, shaking, not because the signal touched her, but because it let go. This is grief, Evan said softly. It's not a failure state. The field buckled. Marcus shouted, Evan, you're coming apart! Evan smiled faintly. I'm still here, he said. I just can't hold all of me anymore. The signal surged, panicked now. Structure collapse imminent. Good, Evan whispered. Then feel it with us. He let the last barrier fall. The tone snapped, not to silence, to noise, raw, human, uncontrolled. The exit didn't open. It shattered. Across Briar Hollow, radios sparked and died. Power flickered out. The air felt suddenly heavy, real, resistant. Evan collapsed forward. Lena caught him, but his weight felt wrong, like holding someone whose center of gravity had shifted. "Evan?" she whispered. His eyes were open, focused, but something essential had gone quiet. "I can't hear it anymore," he said. Iris's voice broke. "That means it's over," Evan finished. "Or it's starting without me." He looked at Lena, searching her face. "Promise me something," he said. "Anything," she sobbed. "Don't let them mythologize this," Evan said. "No heroes, no anchors, just people who finally felt what they'd been avoiding." His eyes fluttered. The distortion around him dissipated. Evan exhaled once and did not inhale again. The tone across town died with him. They buried Evan 3 days later. No radios, no speeches about sacrifice, just dirt, tears, and the sound of a town learning how to grieve out loud. Briar Hollow didn't collapse. It aged. People left. Others stayed. The creek flooded one spring and destroyed 3 houses. A kid moved away and never came back. Loss happened, and no one tried to stabilize it away. Lena kept Evan's jacket. Marcus fixed radios for a living, but never tuned them to empty frequencies again. Iris left town. Years later, people would say Briar Hollow felt lighter, not safer, just honest. And sometimes, late at night, when the wind moved through the trees just right, it almost sounded like someone listening. Not to control, not to hold, but to remember.